Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hearts, and today I'll be breaking down the 4-game NBA slate we have here on DraftKings. I'll be going through my favorite spin-up plays, some mid-range options, and some value plays we can put into our lineups for tonight's slate. So if you're new to the channel, if you could hit that like button, it does really help out my channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. So if you could hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, do truly appreciate all the support. Now let's get into the slates breakdown. Also, my core play video will be out shortly after this. So if you guys like shorter versions of these videos where I just go through my core plays, some value plays, make sure to check that out. So starting off with Orlando, there is some news we do have to watch. At the top, Wendell is questionable. The same thing with Gary Harris. So that's kind of two key pieces from last night that would potentially be out. So we have to keep an eye on the news. So that if Wendell is out, obviously the usage is going to fall down to, or it's going to be bumped up to Franz, Bobo, and Jalen Suggs. Mo Bamba will get some usage as well. Same thing with Chuma, but main beneficiaries are going to be Franz and Suggs and a little bit of Bobo. So I think all three look great. Prefer getting to Bobo and Jalen Suggs just because of the price. Franz, he does have a little bit of upside, but it just kind of seems like he's kind of stuck at that 35 fantasy point range. So at 6,800, he's just more of kind of a contrarian play there for me. Prefer getting to Bobo, who should be pretty popular if Wendell's out. The minutes have been there the past 3 games, 4 games, 30 plus minutes. He's been great at getting blocks. He's pretty much a double-double machine. So I really like him. And then I really like Jalen Suggs. Now, he is kind of not scoring dependent, but, he could definitely go out there and just get you 20 fantasy points because he's not shooting the ball well. He has shown that at times, but I think he's a safe option there, 5,900 if Wendell's out. As you saw in that Minnesota game, 44.5, he does assume a larger role when those kind of main guys are off the court. He'll kind of take over. So I really like him at 5,900. Obama is a fair play. He screwed everyone over in that Minnesota game by getting early foul trouble, but 5,300, still really like him. Chuma looks decent. He should be the lowest owned of the bunch, so he could be a good contrarian play, a good pivot play off the chalky Magic guys if Wendell is out. Seen about 30 minutes, hasn't been great this year, but as you can see, he does have some upside if he's hitting his shots and getting a few rebounds, so don't mind going to him if you want to get a little bit different. Mo is questionable. I'm assuming he's out again. And then Gary Harris, if he's good to go, he looks solid. He saw 24 minutes last game. Not the best point per minute guy. Kind of scoring dependent, kind of that 3-and-D guy. But 4,400, you could take a shot on him. If he's out, it's just more minutes for guys like Terrence Ross and Hampton. Caleb Houston has been seeing him some minutes, but he's more of a 3-and-D as well. Would rather take a shot on T. Ross in a tournament play. He hasn't been great in the past 5-6 games, but he does have some upside if he's hitting his shots. And then I guess Hampton would be there. Probably see at least 15 minutes. So it's just pretty much, interest in those starters. My voice, I'm losing it. Indiana side, big news is Tyrese Halliburton. Frustrating. I played him in one of my lineups, one of my core plays. As I said, he does have that safe floor. Even in a bad game, he still got you 41 fantasy points, which is obviously hard to complain about, but they had 10 points in the first quarter. They were down 25-10. He shot 2 of 9. He barely missed his over on prize picks. Just frustrating stuff. And he got hurt, which sucks because he's fantastic, great young player to watch. So I'm assuming he'll be out because he helped off the floor, but we'll have to see. Let's assume he's out for now. With him being out, obviously Turner healed. Mathurin see a huge usage bump. I love all three. Once again, this game is a great game 2 game stack because everyone's pretty cheap. Everyone's going to see a large usage bump. There's like 3 players on each side that should assume the offensive role and, have a lot higher ceiling than they're used to. So really like both sides. Miles Turner looks great there. We know again from him, he is a little bit foul prone, so there's always that issue, but he looks fantastic. Same thing with Buddy Hield. Same thing with Benedict. Obviously, the only downside with Benedict compared to those 2 other guys is his minutes aren't always secure. So even if Halliburton's out, maybe they could still limit Mathurin to 30 minutes, which is pretty frustrating. Not sure what Rick Carlisle's doing over there in Indiana. I mentioned Jalen Smith last slate. Played him in one of my lineups. It was great. Almost a 50 bomb. He does have that upside. 18 rebounds, a little bit of an outlier. Miles Turner usually gets most of the rebounds, but he does have those games. People will probably chase, so his ownership will probably be pretty elevated. So depending on what it is, I don't mind going back just depending on the ownership. Isaiah Jackson's always a safe pivot play, especially if you think Turner or Smith are going to get in foul trouble or just play bad. His minutes have usually been around 18-ish past few games. He's really, really productive when he's out there. So if you want to take that shot, one of those bigs does bad or gets hurt, gets in foul trouble, load up on Isaiah Jackson. Nembhard and McConnell. McConnell should be the starter if Halliburton is out, so he'll be a really chalky player. He's a great player there at 3,800. Really don't have to go much into that. Nembhard would be another safe play. He's already been starting. Minutes have come down a bit, but would assume his minutes go back up to that 30-ish mark. He's been decent. Don't mind playing both of them. They should be the two chalkiest value play guards on the slate. That's really it. You don't have to go to anyone below that. On to Minnesota and Philadelphia. Minnesota's a pretty easy team. We know where their offense is coming from. Towns, Edwards, that's pretty much it. Gobert and Russell can have, flash those games of upside, but it's really just getting to Towns or Anthony Edwards for me. I prefer getting to Anthony Edwards. Coming off a big game, he has been pretty inconsistent, but I just love the upside there at 7,400. This Philadelphia team is a little bit depleted, so maybe there is a little bit of blowout risk. Hopefully, Tobias Harris plays, but love Anthony Edwards. I think Towns makes for a solid play. Gobert is a decent play, 6,600. No huge stance for me on him. D'Lo, just a very contrarian tournament option just because he's just all over the place. 53.5, 11 to 13 shooting. The game before that, 16.5. I would assume he should get you around 30 fantasy points, but he's just very all over the board. He started off pretty well at the beginning of the season, and he's really fallen off this kind of second half of the season, the early part of the season. So just a tournament option there for me, very contrarian. McDaniels is just there. If you're going to play some value on the side, I'd prefer getting to Kyle Anderson, who's getting about 20 minutes. He's been very productive off the bench. And then for the guards, Noel and McLaughlin are kind of splitting that guard role off the bench. Noel is kind of losing minutes to McLaughlin the past two games, but I think they're both just kind of a dice roll. You don't really know what you're going to get in terms of minutes from both of them. And that's really it. Philly side, Embiid looks great. Going to be the chalkiest spin up on the slate for good reason. Just hope this game stays close. Harden's still out. Maxey hurt his ankle. Once again, frustrating. Like Halliburton because I played him. 21 minutes, he had 40 fantasy points. He was going off. Hurt his ankle at half. Was still able to hit for prize picks for me, but yeah, it sucks seeing him injured because he's a fantastic young player. So I'm assuming he's going to be out. Let's just kind of go with that for now. Tobias Harris is questionable. I'm assuming he'll be able to go just because he missed the first of the back-to-back with some left knee soreness. So I'm assuming he should be good to go. 6,900. He does have a pretty low floor even at that price, but yeah, he should have a huge ceiling, especially if Tyrese is out. Him and Embiid are going to be chucking, so I really like him. Melton should have an increased usage and role in the offense. Alongside Maxey, he was only shooting about 7-8 times a game, but with Maxey gone, he should bump up to at least 10 plus shots in this spot. So 5,900, he looks great. Harrell looks okay. Not really seeing minutes. Don't think he'd go there. Dieng has been seeing a decent amount of minutes, 3,900. You could definitely take a shot on him. He's pretty score independent, but they'll kind of look to that bench to kind of fill in the gap for that Maxey production. I think the only other guy you should look to is Shake. He's going to assume most likely that starting point guard role. Should see about 30-ish minutes, 25 to 30. He's very boomer bust, but at 3,100, going to be the starting point guard most likely. We'll have to wait on that news, but yeah, he should be a fantastic play there. So we'll just throw him in there for now. Obviously, we have to wait on the news. Utah, we have Laurie, 7,800, had a huge game last night. 15 of 18 shooting. Just kind of there for me. Just kind of he's a little too expensive for me at that price. I don't really like getting into these Utah guys. They're just kind of priced about right, especially Laurie. Almost priced too much for me. Clarkson, just more of a tournament option there. Conley, same thing. They're just kind of tournament options. If you want someone with a higher ceiling, you go to Clarkson. If you want someone with a safer floor, you go to Conley, but don't love them at their prices. Vanderbilt and Olynyk, we know what we're getting from them. Olynyk's a better shooter. They both foul a ton. They can get, I don't know why Vanderbilt's priced more, but yeah. Olynyk had that huge game. Next game, foul trouble, 13 fantasy points. So very, very risky getting to either one of those, but you can definitely get to them. Prefer getting to Sexton or Beasley. Beasley's been the better of the two recently. So you could ride that hot streak for him if you want. Prefer, still getting to Sexton just because the ownership is going to flock to Beasley. But yeah, I think they're both in play. They both look decent. Portland side, Dame going to be just under-owned stud pay-up option, so I don't mind getting to him. Hasn't been shooting well the past two games. He could easily go off for 40 real life points, so I do like him a good amount. Grant, just too expensive for me. Coming off that bad game, don't think you need to chase that. Simons looks pretty solid there at 7,000. Obviously, doesn't have a huge, ceiling alongside Dame, just more scoring dependent. But he's just kind of more of a contrarian play there, so I don't mind getting to him. Nurkic, love Nurkic. Had him at 4% ownership, I think, last slate, close to a potential takedown, and he only plays 25 minutes, so his minutes are all over the place. They're not closing with him right now, which kind of sucks, but I do like taking a shot on him, and the price is just too cheap, especially in this matchup against the Utah Bigs, who are pretty brutal, pretty bad. He does have huge upside, 55. Can easily go off for a double-double, so I do like Nurkic a good amount, even though he's been pretty risky the past few games. Josh Hart just priced about right. That's really all I think about him. Winslow, they've been closing with him. Not the most productive. Only going to assume an offensive role if one or two of those main guys are out. They're not, so he just kind of looks okay there at 4,600. He could still get you there, as you saw at the beginning of the season, coming off the bench, playing about 25 minutes. He was decently productive, but I think it just looks okay. And that's really it. You don't really have to get to any of these cheaper guys. On to the Spurs and the Clippers. We got Keldon Johnson questionable, Poeltl's questionable, Vassal's questionable. So huge headache because we're not going to get this news until like 3 hours later from Orlando and Indiana. So you're going to have to take a stance on some of these guys. I'm assuming it looks like Keldon's probable. So he looks very solid there against Clippers. We'll have to see with Poeltl. Trey Jones, if one or two of those guys are out, especially Vassal, Trey Jones, should he see a big bump? Vassal's just way too cheap here at 6,200 going against the Clippers. Ankle soreness, let's assume he's good to go. But yeah, 6,200. Prefer getting to Vassal out of all those guys. Going to be the most popular. But yeah, they all look pretty solid at their prices. If they're out, obviously you load up on Trey Jones if Vassal and Keldon are out. But if Vassal's only out and it's, Keldon's in, prefer getting to Keldon. Trey Jones still makes a solid play. Sohan, you're going to see 30 minutes. He looks okay. Prefer getting to the value guys of like Bassey if Poeltl's out. Maybe some Roby if, Keldon Johnson's out. Or a guy like Diop. He's been pretty productive. So it pretty much depends on who the starting lineup is. If it's their main guys, prefer Vassal and Johnson. Trey Jones would be my third option. Depending on who's out, we'll have to see. On to the Clippers. I think Paul George makes for a sneaky play. The reason why is he does have a little bit lower of a floor playing alongside Kawhi, but we've seen games last year when they were able to play together and the year before that he does have a huge ceiling, even playing alongside of him. So he can make very, very sneaky play in this game, in this spot. Kawhi, seen about 25 minutes. Don't think you need to go to him yet. Zubac surprisingly played 40 minutes last game, which is insane. Had 18 rebounds, but really couldn't score. He looks more of a contrarian play, decent play there. And that's really it. Morris, seeing the minutes, but third in terms of scoring and usage behind the two main stars. Wall had a bad game. You could look to him if the ownership's off of him. He looks decent. But at 5,800, I don't think you need to fit him in there, especially for the guard spot. You got McConnell, you got Milton, you got Nembhard. Really don't think you need to pay up for John Wall at the guard spot. Reggie had a decent game, but yeah, the interest is really just Paul George for me, and that's about it. You could definitely look to Zubac, but it's really just Paul George. So yeah, guys, so that is the video so far for today. We're really looking to Shake Milton, Anthony Edwards, TJ McConnell, and then we do have to wait on that Indiana news, the Spurs news, and some of the Philadelphia news. So if you guys liked the video, do appreciate it if you hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the core play video later today. Peace.